You've heard the Podzeen. Well, now you are listening to Podzeen Tour Thing.
All right, welcome. Come one, come all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Featuring Frankie T and Danger Remington Dorchester.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Podzeen Tour Thing. We are here once again to talk about live music and the life therein. I came up, and I'll give you, once we're not recording, because I didn't think about this before we started, but I came up with names for the sections. So obviously the first section would be current tours, and then Life of a Roadie I was thinking for the name of the second section, or Life of a Stage Tech, whichever you prefer.
I think Roadie sounds cooler.
Yeah, Roadie sounds more familiar to the vernacular, right?
Yeah.
And then the last section I was kind of struggling with, so I kind of just called it the struggle because it's not always going to be like us talking about performance stuff that we have, but like going to concerts as well. So kind of like being in the scene and stuff like that. So I figured the struggle was mildly appropriate. So first things first, we're talking about tours, and I actually have a really funny one. I don't know how much YouTube.
Adam Sandler touring again?
Say what?
Is Adam Sandler touring again?
I wish. No, this is funny for meta reasons, not because... Well, I don't know. I've never actually listened to the artist. I'm just familiar with him because he's a YouTuber. I don't know how much YouTube you watch, but there's a YouTuber by the name of Elijah Daniel. Do you know this name?
I do not. I am unfamiliar.
Elijah Daniel is... I mean, he's a relatively large YouTube personality. He's a gay guy, and like he's kind of a social justice warrior type, which makes this little bit of news all that much more funny. So he announced he's going on tour because he does a little rap side project thing, and the name of his tour mate is Dr. Woke.
Is what?
Dr. Woke, as in... Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, just like Dr. Hook. Yeah. No, man.
God, I wish Dr. Hook. Yeah, but he's not that cool. He's not really
He doesn't have his face on the cover of the Rolling Stone yet.
Right? But so they were in wherever Westboro is. Alabama? Illinois? Something stupid. Just the other day, the Westboro Baptist Church, you know?
Yeah.
He got protested by the Westboro Baptist Church. There was like 3 dudes from Westboro out there holding up signs, God hates fags and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, you realize that this guy would have gotten zero press aside from the people who watch his channel regularly, which, if I'm not mistaken, actually, I'm going to pull him up, is a fairly sizable channel that he has, but like there's no mainstream media press until Westboro Baptist Church shows up and they give him, so they're like defeating their own purpose by showing up, because then mainstream media says, oh, this guy must be important because the Westboro Baptist Church hates him.
Yeah, and for whatever reason they think the Westboro Baptist Church is important.
Right? Like it's seriously, it's like 4 families in the middle of bumfuck
Thou
nowhere.
shalt not judge.
No,
I mean,
kidding.
wait, no. Yeah.
He has 625,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. So not the most like dominating YouTube presence, but it's a YouTube presence. That's enough that he's making money on YouTube.
Yeah.
And apparently
getting that internet money.
Yeah, right. So I just thought that was kind of funny because Westboro Baptist Church is just a funny thing to talk about sometimes. The next one, let's do this one next. The next one that I have is only...
Wait, so he's touring?
Say what?
Did you say he's touring?
Yeah, he's doing a little tour.
Oh, excuse me.
It's there's 4 dates. There's 4 dates left. Again, I've never actually listened to his music. I'm only familiar with him because of his YouTube presence, because he does have a mild to moderate sized following. So like he's a name. I watch enough YouTubes and am familiar with the landscape enough to have heard the name before. And just because he has more popular friends on the platform, so he's been in videos that I've seen because I watch other people who know him. But yeah, he does a little rap thing. He's the gay rapper.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, he's got Chicago, Toronto, Brooklyn, and Boston left on the tour. It's just a funny thing.
It'd be an interesting one to check out.
Right?
Hey, you know what? You know what just happened to me?
What's that?
I just got offered a ticket to go see Nine Inch Nails at Red Rocks tomorrow.
No shit.
Yeah.
I was gonna get tickets to that, but it was at Red Rocks, and I can't remember who was. Oh, Jesus and Mary Chain's opening for him, right? Is that still the tour that they're on?
Which one?
The Jesus and Mary Chain is the opening act.
I think so.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
I'm actually not sure.
Who? How did this come about?
Oh, I was at the Mountain Sun Brewery's 25th year anniversary at Planet Bluegrass with the string cheese incident.
Nice.
And one of our old production managers offered a ticket to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus and Mary Chain. I thought they were done with this, but that's pretty fucking cool if you're going to go. Jesus,
yeah, at Red Rocks too, so that should be pretty sick.
Jesus and Mary Chain, again, is another like 80s pop goth band that had a couple of hits through the 80s, and I think even one or two into the 90s, and then kind of fell off into obscurity. And Trent Reznor said, "Hey, you guys are weird and make interesting music. Let's go on tour together, even though we sound nothing alike." Kind of like when he went on tour. This was years and years ago with the Dresden Dolls. Do you know the Dresden Dolls? Amanda Palmer.
I heard the name. I'm not extremely familiar.
It was a duo. Amanda Palmer and like her ex-husband or something. She was on piano and he was a drummer. And they also very not Nine Inch Nails sounding, but Trent just has those weird itches sometimes, and he takes very strange bands out on tour with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really thought this tour had ended already. That's fucking cool. I'm happy for you, sir. They're one of my bucket list bands to see live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the next one, the only reason I'm bringing it up, because it's not really a band I'm huge on anymore, but I did just listen to their cover of Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. What is the name of that song?
Oh, jeez. Oh my god!
Just put me on a microphone and my brain just stops half the time.
I know. What is that? Oh man.
It's the Simon and Garfunkel song, whatever. It was the Disturbed cover of that song, which a lot of people hated, and I haven't really listened to it. So I was on the YouTubes, and I saw a reaction video. There's this vocal coach that does reaction videos, and he was analyzing David Draymond's vocals on the live version of that song, and like hearing his analysis and then also doing my own analysis to the song with him, you know what I mean? Like, just was like, yeah, you're right. David Draymond is not a bad vocalist. Just because his band chooses to make mediocre music doesn't mean they're bad musicians, right? So just an interesting one. They're on tour. I saw that as I was scrolling through and thought we could talk about mediocrity and good musicians making mediocre music.
Yeah. Yeah, I like mediocre music. Like, it's okay.
By definition, right?
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit that if I like a genre, I like everything from the mediocre bands on through the good bands in that genre. But I can openly admit when they're mediocre. Disturbed is kind of one of those bands in the nu metal side of things. Like, I was pretty big on nu metal in like high school, as it was most metalheads, I think, of my age group. I really lost interest in a lot of it, though. As it was kind of falling out of vogue, I still really love the early Korn records, and I still really love, as horrible as this is going to sound, anything that Limp Bizkit did in really ever. I have everything they've ever done, just because Wes Borland is a god to me. But yeah, so Disturbed was on that spectrum, and the fact that they're still going strong is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
Still going strong.
Like really strong. Like their newest records.
Like viral strong.
Their newest record is gold, I believe, which is kind of a feat in modern music.
Yeah, I didn't know people still bought records.
Well, they had to change the way it worked because digital is so prevalent. So they count
it has
count
to do with
digital
like
downloads
downloads
too.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how it breaks down, because if you just buy a single song off the record, then if that single song is bought so many times, does that count as an album sale? Or I don't know how that works. But somehow I'm fairly certain. I don't know where to exactly find that quickly anyway. But yeah, interesting. Do you have any tours that you have heard of in the last week that are interesting to your ears?
That are interesting to my ears.
Aside from going to Nine Inch Nails?
Well, no. It's the end of the summer. Things are kind of coming to a close. But
That's
there's
true.
a few things that I really wanted to see that I didn't get to see. Trying to think. David Byrne came through. And I missed
why do I know that name? Is that David Byrne?
Talking Heads.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
He's got a new album out. Oh no, that's Johnny Cash, and he's dead.
No. There's a Bowl of Fire, rather. There's a newer indie artist that has a similar sounding name, and for a while was playing with a band called the Bowl of Fire. But no, I know David Byrne. Talking Heads. I dig Talking Heads.
So yeah, that's a really cool tour that I guess I've heard it's really cool from some pretty jaded people that are not easily impressed. So
rock and roll. I feel like I had heard similar things about him live. I didn't realize he was on tour now, but
yeah, he had released a new album I think earlier this summer. And
rockin'.
Yeah.
I dig those.
So I missed that. Kind of bummed.
Yeah.
Then Crazy Horse did their farewell tour a little bit ago and missed that.
Oh, really? Crazy Horse is no longer a thing?
They did a farewell tour. I don't know if that was just the name of the tour or they were actually saying farewell.
Huh. That's crazy.
But
no.
Yeah, it's a band that's like a time capsule, They've always had that sound.
Yeah. Huh. Man, everybody's just stopping. Well, and we don't know, again, for certain that Crazy Horse is done, but still, all these...
Yeah, Eric Clapton's done like 3 farewell tours,
Kiss
Maybe
is
he's got
threatening to go on
Alzheimer's
their
and just
farewell
keeps
tour
thinking
well.
he hasn't said goodbye. Yeah.
Right. Phil Anselmo, who many people will know because he sang for Pantera. His current project is called Philip H. Anselmo and the Illegals, and they are on tour. If you like Phil Anselmo and you're okay with the more mediocre versions of his music, then the Illegals is definitely a show. And Phil always puts on a great show. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen them live a couple of times, never for Pantera, unfortunately, but for Superjoint Ritual and Down. And those two bands are fucking amazing. The Illegals is definitely not one of his better bands, but still, it's a Phil Anselmo show, so it's going to be a sight at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had
Yeah,
the
like a
privilege?
Gigi Allen show. You know, it might not
Yeah.
be musical, but it's a show.
Yeah. There's definitely that element to a Phil Anselmo show. Actually, the one time I saw him with Superjoint Ritual, he had Hank 3 playing bass for him, so that was cool in and
that's
of itself.
badass.
Yeah, dude. It was at what was then the Starlight and is now Hodie's Half Note. It was a killer show.
Yeah.
And they didn't even have the place packed out. It was them and who was the opener? Devil Driver was the opener. Who, if you remember Coal Chamber from back in the day, their vocalist Des Fafrera is the vocalist for Devil Driver these days, and they are a great new wave of American heavy metal band.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then I had one last one, which is really just a speculative tour because it hasn't been announced yet. And actually, the album that they're going to be supporting, they're doing the finishing touches on right now, is Rammstein.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Du hast.
Right?
I got my first fight to that song.
Seriously?
I guess somebody started a fight with me. I wasn't the one that got it. Oh, I was in a fight during that song in like 8th grade.
No kidding.
Yeah, this kid attacked me at a house party. There were strobe lights going on. It was nuts.
Was he high and just like didn't know what was going on and freaked out or what?
Yeah, I don't know. He was kind of an emotionally unstable lad, and I think that song just set him off. And for some reason, he felt like he had to hit me in the face.
Wow.
Yeah, I ducked and weaved though. He didn't land a shot. It must have been the strobe light or something. Maybe my agility.
Oh, that's funny.
Flexes.
That's funny. So they're finishing their newest studio album, which is a feat in and of itself because Rammstein takes forever to write because their process is so democratic. Like literally, I've heard interviews with both Till, the lead singer, and Richard, one of the guitar players, where they say that literally every note played and every drum beat hit, everyone in the band has to sign off on it. So that takes forever to go through, especially when you've got like a 15 song album.
Yeah, I mean, if we did that, we'd still be tracking our first song.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, yeah. I can only imagine what that would be like. But yeah, so they're doing orchestral arrangements and choir arrangements, it looks like. But yeah, so once that album is done, hopefully, because Rammstein is not big fans of coming to the States, aside from maybe a couple individual members, hopefully they will tour the States one last time. Because when they put out their last record, Liebe ist für alle da, they were saying that it could be their last record that they are ever going to record, and because it's just such a grueling process that they couldn't all get into it as much as they could, back in the days of Du hast. So when they announced they were going to start recording a new record, I was super stoked. And now that it's nearing completion, that means we have the potential to see them live one more time. Because if you've never seen Rammstein live, you really, really must. That is easily one of the best live shows I have ever seen, and I saw him on one of the low key tours when they were touring to promote Muta. They were on tour with Slipknot and Mudvayne and System of a Down, which was a hell of a bill to begin with, but they really, I love Slipknot, and I really love Slipknot's live show. They put on a wicked live show, and back in the day, Mudvayne did the same, but Rammstein stole the show, and it was one of their smaller shows, a lot less pyro than they normally do. So hopefully, if this is their last tour, if it happens, they go all out and get all the crazy pyro back, because it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Do you I know Ween does a little bit, right? Does String Cheese do any pyro or anything like that on stage?
Actually, I don't know that Ween has done a
No?
pyro.
I feel like
Maybe.
I've heard stories from back in the day, but I really
I'm
could
sure
be
they've done it
conflating that
for
with somebody
shows.
else.
We really just use a massive amount of fog.
Yeah,
And a
and
lot of
stoners
lights,
will
yeah.
often confuse fog for pyro. That's not
Yes.
really an exaggeration at all.
Yeah. And but no, String Cheese will use pyro. They do that a lot of times for their shebangs. They do these big theatrical events for let's see here. They do them for Electric Forest and Halloween and New Year's usually.
Nice.
Not every time, but sometimes they'll do pyro. Confetti, aerialists, and large inflatable whatever things, They could, just like large inflatable stuff
Right.
pass around the audience. There'll be something going on, and
Not
people
large.
walking around on stilts and mythological
Whoa,
animal
for real?
costumes. Yeah,
That's a
I
lot
think it's
more
pretty-
intense than I was imagining a jam band would get with their stage show.
yeah. No, they involve the entire arena a lot of times for these things, and it's not just on stage. They'll have dancers and stuff on stage and aerialists, but they use the entire venue. They have people come out of the woodworks. At Electric Forest this last year, they did something with drones.
Whoa.
They had all these drones that were all networked together, and it was making designs in the sky right above the stage. Like, while they were playing, it was going into different geometric designs and like the band's logo.
That's a trip.
It was a trip. Yeah, we got lucky with the wind. It had to be under like 10 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour in order for those to work and be able to network together.
That's kind of intense.
It was pretty intense.
I
thought it was kind of lame from the stage because I couldn't see it, and everybody in the audience was just kind of like looking somewhere else. So from on stage, we're all like, "Is this working?" We don't know, like because the band and the crew, like we couldn't tell if it was really an effective thing. It was a really cool idea artistically, and it worked. We executed it without a rehearsal, but it's kind of one of those things that may have drawn more attention from the performance than needed because there was a guest singer on stage too, and nobody was paying attention to her. So, yeah,
that's kind of funny.
But they like to try new things and old things too, like fire.
Like fire. The thing that really makes me sad, who was it I went and saw? I think it was the last time I saw Lamb of God. They didn't have any actual pyro. They just had really big screens with fire playing on the screen. Like that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? That's not nearly as cool.
Yeah, you might as well just light the venue on fire at that point. Sorry.
People who are really into Whitesnake are going to take offense to that.
Oh man, these comments are made purely for the
or
sake of
Great White,
entertainment.
rather. Great White. It wasn't Whitesnake. It was Great White.
Yeah.
So moving on, unless you have any other tours that you are keen to speak of.
Not at the moment.
Today's Life of a Roadie question has to do with travel, even though you've kind of given us a little bit already about pyro and stage production. But so what is the furthest you have traveled with either of your touring bands that you support? And is there an interesting story that is involved with said travel?
Well, let's see here. I've gone down to Mexico a couple of times to Maya Riviera with the String Cheese, and there's plenty of stories that I can't remember because we were at an all-inclusive resort. Very indulgent.
Apparently.
Yeah, I've gone way up into northern British Columbia for the Element Festival with them as well. That was interesting. There was only a couple hundred people at that festival. It's in the middle of nowhere.
That's interesting. Why would they? Like, they're a sizable band. Why would they go play for like 500 people? Not that those 500 people don't deserve it, but it seems strange that they would play such a small show.
It didn't have to do with the ticket sales. It had the promoter was paying them their guarantee, so they're like, "Cool, we're getting paid."
Oh, rockin'.
Yeah, and it was a good time, I think.
Did you have fun in the land of
artists at large? It was cool.
Did you have fun in the land of socialist America?
Oh, I don't know how socialist it was. It was all like trees and mountain lakes and
Fair enough.
A bunch of.
You were not in the city, so you didn't have to deal with that side of the thing.
Yeah. There wasn't any hotels nearby, so we stayed on a ranch in the middle of. It was like this 100-acre ranch with a lake on it and horses. Yeah, it was a unique experience. We brought in a private chef for it.
No shit.
Yeah, just rented out the whole ranch. It was really cool.
Have either of the bands taken you overseas?
Not yet. I know that both bands have gotten offers for like Fuji Rock over in Japan and stuff like that, but usually find something a little bit more lucrative stateside.
Yeah, I hear Japan is quite the place to go, especially if you're a young or a lesser known American band. Usually Japan just eats that shit up.
Oh yeah. Southeast Asia, really, they love American music.
Yeah,
but I've been to the Bahamas and stuff like that on cruise ships and stuff, working for bands. But no, just kind of North America all over.
Cruise ships, is that with... I
was with Kyle Hollingsworth's band. We did the Big Labruski Southern Craft Cruise.
Oh, I've heard of that
a couple years ago. It was just a 1-year thing.
Yeah,
and it was a good time.
Sounds really familiar.
Molly Hatchet played. That was cool.
Yeah, no, I really think I saw the billing for that and was very intrigued by the lineup. That sounds super familiar.
Yeah, it was like Skinner Nation and Molly Hatchet and bands like that mixed in with, more of the jam band scene, like Kyle Hollingsworth Band and Euphorchestra. OAR was on that bill. It was, and then they add 40 breweries to it on a cruise ship and the Caribbean.
When it's I've always been interested because there's a heavy metal cruise every year that really random bands always play. For a while, Hell Yeah did it like 3 years in a row, and then this last year, this cat that I watch on YouTube called Leo Maracchioli, who's a Swedish guy who does metal covers of like contemporary pop tunes, and like his biggest one, he did a metal cover of Adele's Hello, which is hilarious and awesome, but it's got like 90 billion freaking views at this point. He just did the heavy metal cruise, and it looks like and maybe, I mean, obviously they're not the same cruise, but you were part of something similar. It looks like the bands are just like, there's no separate section of the boat necessarily for the bands. They're just hanging out with all the people on the boat. Is that how your cruise went as well?
Yeah, pretty much.
Fucking
everybody's
cool.
on a boat, so it's there's not really a place to get away.
Yeah.
There's only so much backstage area before you have to go to the same restaurant as everybody else.
I feel like that's slightly more commendable in my eyes now if I see a band do a cruise like that, because on that boat there's going to be that one guy who just won't leave them alone.
Yeah, well, yeah, but at the same time,
there's still security and such.
And there's still techs and production assistants and stuff out there, and if somebody's really just being a little too stalkerish, then steps can be taken.
You sound like you're in the mafia now.
Yeah. We got a pair of cement boots. I think that They're just your size.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's Life of a Roadie. Next up on the list, Podzeners, is the struggle section of the episode, and today's topic for the struggle is first time performing original music in front of an audience. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one too, just because mine, I feel like, is a little less eventful, but will lead into a bit of a story. So what was your first time performing something, specifically performing something you wrote in front of an audience?
My first time I was 11 years old, and I was playing a piano recital. I was in 6th grade. It was last year I took piano lessons, and I had written an original piece not for a recital, but I had written it, and I chose to play it for a recital. It was at CSU in their music hall, their music building that, not the current one, over off Remington, but their old music building just off the Oval.
Oh.
At Colorado State University. Yeah, I was 11 years old, played to about 300 people. Yeah. And I remember I had to write out and actually transcribe my music because it was all in my head, and I had to write it down and officially do it and submit the sheet music before I was allowed to play.
That's pretty daunting for an 11-year-old.
Yeah, I spent, half my time at Disney World writing that out because it was right before the recital.
Wait, you went to Disney World right before the recital?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple weeks before, but I was still trying to figure out how to write this piece down because it was like a 6 or 7 page composition.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you still, I learned forever ago how to read music, and it is a skill that is lost to me now. I can still, if you give me a day, I can maybe figure out the first page of a piece. You know what I mean? It'll take me a while to get back into the groove.
Yeah.
Can you still read sheet music?
Yeah, I can read it. I can't sight read, as I'm reading it, I can't play what I'm reading, but I know what it says.
Huh. Yeah, I can read the rhythm on the page, but the notes it seriously would take me a couple of hours to decipher the first few measures. Just because. Yeah,
it's tricky. I mean, I've known how to read music for 25 years.
Right.
And I still don't understand how people sight read.
Right?
It's a skill that bewilders me.
It's insane. It's so foreign to my brain that. It's
impressive.
What's that?
It's impressive. I really enjoy seeing people do that. Yeah.
Just it's almost the same, although slightly more impressive than this. It's I was in a country band a few years back, and our pedal steel player, who actually very likely is listening to this show, Marty, if you're listening, you're a rock star and I love you. But he and I were talking because the leader of the band was this guy named Glenn, and he could just pick up. He couldn't read sheet music, but he could pick up a piece if he was even vaguely familiar with it and play and sing at the same time, which is something that you can do, but something that I have to learn one part of that. If I'm going to sing and play at the same time, I have to learn how to play the song and then teach myself how to sing the song over, you know what I mean? It's two very separate parts of my brain that have to meet in the middle. Whereas someone like you, it just boggles my mind how you can go, oh yeah, let's just do, and you do it with every freaking instrument too. So that is equally as impressive to me as someone who can just sight read.
Well, I mean, different people have different talents. We're all geniuses.
It's true. So my first time playing on stage playing original music, because I've been on stage singing and stuff, but that I didn't write it for most of my life. I've been choir and so on and so forth since I was a little kid. But the first time I was doing something I wrote was in high school. Was the first performance of my metal band at the time. we did a couple of covers. It was a battle of the bands for the high school during like our sophomore homecoming dance or something like that. We did 2 covers and we did an original, and it was really funny because the school was like really uptight about people doing certain kinds of music. So one of the covers we did was a cover of a cover. It was the Limp Bizkit version of Faith. And the school was...
you're doing a cover of a cover.
Yeah. So the school, like one of my friends' bands was performing, and so they had to submit a lyric sheet to their original tunes, and so did I. So I had to like censor my original tune. But because Faith was a cover, like we didn't have to submit the lyric sheet for it. So I got away with I did the thing that Fred does live. He's in the Woodstock performance of that. He said, "Yo, Woodstock, get the fuck up!" And I did that for the school. I said, "Yo, Northridge, get the fuck up!" And that was like I had just killed a cat on stage, and like
everybody's like gasping. What did he say?
Oh no! And my buddy, who was not in my band, the friend whose band was playing the battle as well, got so pissed off at me because I got to do it and he didn't, because I had the balls to just go with it, and he was like, "I don't want to get kicked off stage." But it was a lot of fun. I feel like, because I was just doing vocals at the time, it was before I was playing an instrument in a band. I feel like that was my first experience with nerves. And when you get on stage, it's a very different feeling than when you're rehearsing the song. So, like, I got off stage and I was hoarse, and that had never happened after hours of rehearsal. I just was so excited and so amped up, I just blew my voice out, and the struggle is real, man.
Yeah.
Do you?
For real.
I know you have issues sometimes. Is it like a stage anxiety? Does that cause you to? What's that?
You know what?
Does that cause you to over amp like that, or does that just make you want to be smaller?
I don't know. There's something that's very I don't know. There's something that's very intimate about performing your own music.
Right. Very much.
And especially to strangers.
Right.
So, especially if you're performing material that you're very sensitive to an audience that you have no idea who they are or what they like or how they're going to perceive it. And that takes balls. And even when people are enjoying stuff, like when an audience is really listening, sometimes they stop dancing and they're just looking at you. And you have to wonder, like, you have to guess if they like it or not.
Right.
So to me, it's like, you know, it's a lot different when people are just headbanging and stuff, and yeah, and at least showing a positive response and stuff like that. But with singer-songwriter stuff, or slower, more emotional pieces and intimate stuff, it can be very kind of daunting, to just confusing, to wonder, like, am I pulling this off, or am I just failing right now? Because you don't really know until the song's over and they either clap or they don't.
Right. So does that feeling make you overplay? I know, because when I'm playing bass, I get that, I have that same thought. Like, are they enjoying what I'm doing? Guitar less so, because I'm more focused on playing. Bass just comes a little more naturally to me, so I have the extra mental capacity to look out into the crowd and think what's going on in their heads. But when I'm in that moment, what it does is it makes me want to play harder. So I have to then also consciously scale it back. Otherwise, I won't be able to finish the set. I've played shows where the last song I turn my fingertip into a pick, and I hate pick bass playing, even though Mr. Bean Picker does a phenomenal job at it, and I'm definitely not taking a stab at him. That's just not my personal way to play.
Yeah. I'm the same way with guitar. I prefer to finger pick on an acoustic guitar than to flat pick.
Right. So, like, I've gotten it in that mode where I'm like, I don't know how they're liking it, so I'm just going to play harder so I make sure they're liking it. And I've overamped it playing bass even too. So like my fingers don't function properly because the muscle has been worn out because I'm just hitting it so hard. So that's kind of my reaction to that is instead of just worrying, do they or don't they, it's I'm going to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'll just say a couple more times.
Everybody's different. I'm definitely not trying to put you on the spot. I just think it's interesting because you are really a prolific player and you do play so many instruments and you do have such a interesting musical voice, not just your actual singing voice, but the songs you write with us. I feel like I can pick out a Danger Remington Dorchester song, and I can pick out a Amos Beanpicker song, and that's not a bad thing. It's a really cool thing that you guys have those voices that are so pronounced, and it's interesting to me that with that pronounced voice also comes the trepidation of, am I being well received when it's such good music that you guys are putting out there that I am privileged to be playing. I've always had a
healthy fear of rejection, so.
You have a fear of rejection?
A nice and healthy fear of rejection, yeah. Yeah, first couple of girls I asked out when I was a wee lad turned me down and, just never recovered.
Yeah.
When did this turn into a therapist session?
No, it didn't. I was actually trying to use it as an ego stroking session just because I love playing the music with you and wanted to voice that, and that I guess somehow that turned into this, but yeah,
I'm just fucking with you.
It's the struggle, man. It's the struggle.
No, it is the struggle. And I was always somebody that loved and stuff, but you see those kids that are like banging on pots and pans, making noise, like pay attention to me, and then,
right.
The adults stop talking and like, okay, what do you have to say? And it's just like, you just like run off into the next room, like thanks.
Oh, that's a great analogy for it. I feel like
everybody loves attention but
until they get it, and then everybody's always ready to
receive it. Yeah, and then what do I do with all this? So many eyes looking at me.
Well, I feel like that's a decent note to go out on. So thanks again, Podzeners, for listening to your Podzeen tour thing. I hope you guys are digging it. Again, the newest episode, or the episode we recorded last week, just got posted today, which that gap will shorten. So if you are a fan of what we're trying to do here, let us know. There will be comments somewhere where you're listening to this, or you can send emails. Check out the website, obzeen.rocks. That is where a lot of the stuff is, or specifically the band that Danger and I play in is Telepathic Sandwich, and you can find our stuff at telepathicsandwich.com. Yeah, and we're putting together a YouTube, so we're not going to do video necessarily just yet, just because it's a lot more tricky to add the video component. But if you're listening to us on YouTube, then definitely subscribe and like the video / audio with a picture. Because you haven't seen it yet. I did our thing is I found a clip art of a tour bus and I put the OZ as a logo on the bus. It's really kind of cool. So you should go check it out when we're done.
So it looks like we actually have our own tour bus.
And I put the Obzeen logo up the side of the tour bus, but you can't really see it because the Podzeen tour thing kind of covers it up. But it's pretty cool looking. I was pretty proud of it. It's totally cheap looking, but that I feel like is kind of the point. So yeah, go check out us on all the things, and this should be on the iTunes. If you're not listening to us there, you can go leave a review up on the iTunes. Thank you guys once again for listening. This is Frankie T and Danger Remington Dorchester signing off of Tour Thing.
Thank you guys.